What's up, guys? This is Kalo, and normally I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming, but welcome back to another episode of Community Kitchen, where we're cooking up the latest and greatest gaming news headlines. And who better to join me today than Aiden? Why don't you say what's up?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Sandwich, where we haven't made over $1 billion on PC, but we're trying.
It would be nice. And in order to help us do that, you should consider subscribing and dropping a like on this video for Game Sandwich. And if you want, join our community Discord. Links to that is in the video description down below. Now, today we're talking about my favorite thing in the world, and that's money, because money makes the world go round. And not only that, but we have some new estimates as to how much money Sony is making off of putting their games on platforms like Steam, and we got some other numbers. And real quick, Aiden, before I read the, well, not official numbers, just estimates here, how do we think it's going for them? Good? Are we in the green? Are we in the red? Are we somewhere in the middle?
I don't know. I think a lot of people who just play on PC would want to have PlayStation games. So, I think that generally, without having looked at the article at all, I think PlayStation's probably in a good spot for it because, I mean, there's a lot of people who just play on PC and that's it, who have been waiting for PlayStation games. So I feel like they'd be doing good.
It's pretty damn good out here. So I'm pulling from Insider Gaming and Mike Straw, where I said, quote, the firm says that according to their estimates, and this is Alina Analytics, over $1.5 billion in revenue has been generated in total. Of that, Sony receives $1.2 billion, while Valve, and they're talking about Steam here, has come away with at least a $350 million. For the Valve's portion of the cuts, they are taking 30% of sales initially. Once the game reaches $10 million in total sales, that drops to 25. After $50 million, it falls a bit further to 20%. Now, to break it down kind of by games here, again, this isn't official numbers, hasn't been confirmed by Sony, but it's pretty well-educated guess here. Alina reports that Helldivers 2 is the most successful first-party game on Steam. Since its release in February of 2024, the game has sold 12.7 million copies. In a distant second is Horizon Zero Dawn, which sold 4.5 million copies. Then it's followed by God of War with 4.2, Days Gone, which is pretty interesting, with 3.4 million, and Spider-Man Remastered with 2.7 million copies sold. So, up front, it's not surprising. And it is something that we've talked about before, where people got to understand to make money in today's climate and gaming, you have to go where people are. And we've talked last week about how there is a dynamic shift going on where, yes, the brick and mortar classic home video game console is still going to be a thing. It is still going to be part of life. And we're never going to live in a world where that box, or whatever you want to define it as, whether it turns into this little USB stick that you stick into the back of your TV, that's not going away. But there is a massive growing audience in the world of PC gaming that is willing to take up that opportunity to get games like Spider-Man, Days Gone. And Days Gone stands out to me the most because that's a game that, for all that it's worth, PlayStation shipped off and just said, hey, we don't care about Days Gone no more, even though they did just do this remaster thing. But, it wasn't well received up front, and yet it's still selling pretty damn well after it's been released.
Well, one, excuse me because I sneezed. But no, I do think that some of the numbers are a bit surprising. I'm not surprised about Helldivers, honestly,
No.
at all. Just because it launched on PC and PlayStation simultaneously. It was meant for PC. It was so it having 12.7 million copies sold on PC is not surprising at all. It's also just as a little side note, it's also not surprising to see how much it is sold on Xbox as well because a lot of people through just hype in general when it got shipped over to Xbox, a lot of people were just excited for it in general. But Horizon Zero Dawn, that one is a little bit more surprising to me solely because it was a little bit of an older title. It had what was it, 2 years, 3 years or something to sit on the PlayStation before it finally got put on PC. So seeing that one at 4.5 million, that one's a bit surprising to me. God of War, I think is a little bit like surprising too, just because I feel like it should have sold more because it felt like there was a lot more hype around God of War than there was about Horizon Zero Dawn. But Days Gone for sure is very surprising that it sold as much as it did, just because, like you said, that one was just one that they were just like, okay, we're just gonna get rid of it, put it on PC, whatever. Didn't really seem like they cared too much. And now people are like, oh my god, I love this game.
And it's good that you bring up the older titles and all that, and especially the word hype. The article here continues, looking at their data, Alina notes that sales were stronger when PlayStation first started releasing its titles on Steam. I think that's the hype factor. One example they used was God of War. When it released, the game sold 2.5 million copies in 427 days. That ended up being 2.5 times more than the sequel, God of War Ragnarok, sold in the same time frame. And another title that was used was Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. Over the first 294 days on the platform, Spider-Man sold twice as many copies as its sequel. So, it's that thing where we talk about constantly of, like, yes, the PlayStation 5 exists. Yes, there's a fan base there that buys the games day one and says, yeah, like, we are fully on board with PlayStation and what we're doing. I can't wait for, like, Insomniac's The Wolverine and all that. But there is also a sect of gamers that don't own a PS5 that want to play these games and say, like, all right, we'll wait that aggregated, like, however, they do like a year or something like that, where it's like, we'll release here first, but down the line, we're going to release it again and kind of inject more money into what we're doing. And I think this also ties into a story that broke over the weekend where people were speculating that Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. I keep forgetting that game's title because it's very long. There was a rumor going around that the game could probably release in 2026 with a reveal at the Game Awards. That rumor has been debunked, and they said no, or it was Jeff Grubb, if I recall correctly, where Jeff Grubb said, no, it's not happening. It's not releasing in 2026. It's coming out after that. So we're looking at 2027, 2028.
Rockstar releasing a game soon.
No, that's Naughty Dog.
But yeah, Naughty Dog. My bad. I was like thinking it was Rockstar.
Still the same vein, but
still same thing applies. Come on.
Same thing applies. We're getting The Last of Us in 2030. But my point there being, this is like a prime example of how PlayStation could still get away with releasing big titles however many years out, because if they just up and decide like, hey, next month we're dropping, what's a game that hasn't gone to PC yet? Ghost of Yote? That hasn't gone to PC yet. Like, I don't think. But pick a major title out of a hat at this point. They can just say, hey, this is going to be our moneymaker for the month of December or whatever. That is why I always just stress the point that PlayStation is just doing things ass backwards, where it's like, in this time frame, they chose to go, we're gonna do these live service games. They all failed. They all were killed off a month after. Like, why not embrace, like, made over $1 billion on Steam alone. Why aren't we doing that more? Like, why isn't that the bright light, the green line that everyone's chasing to go, you know what? Maybe we're reconsidering our thing. Again, I will stand on the notion, if they want to make that margin even better, PlayStation, release your own launcher on the PC. That'll get the money directly to you, and people will sign up. You'll avoid this whole PSN network sign up thing because you have to use it to get into the app, and that's what you want to do. Do it. That's all my soapbox right there.
Like, I don't disagree with you. I think that they should definitely do a PC launcher. I debate whether or not they would still charge, because, like, my whole thing is, like, PC is typically a free platform. Once you get onto it, it is free. If you use Steam, it is free. And you don't have to have any sort of, like, PSN account or Xbox account in order to play your games with people. And that's true with a lot of games until you hit, like, Xbox, where it's like, oh, if Halo Infinite, for instance, is only on Xbox, but you can play it on PC, but only through the PC launcher or whatever, you still have to pay for it. And so is it going to be, like, I wouldn't want them to do that because I don't trust that PlayStation would never be like, oh, okay, well, if you're on PC, you can play for free. And that goes into like something that I honestly want to do a video about at some point that I'll tell you about. But it's like, where it's just like, why is PC free when everything else has to be paid for? I want a definitive answer on this,
Yeah.
legitimately.
Yeah,
But
that's a lot to unpack there with PC.
But I think that there's a lot of it that they do, which it for like exclusivity and the reason for buying a PlayStation in general, because it's like if all of the games come to PC and PC has this entry market, like this entry price of like $1,000, say, because you can get a PC for $1,000. It's a good gaming PC. I mean, I've recently seen gaming laptops that you can buy for like $800 that are just as good as a PS5. But those right there, like, just what I'm getting at, like, is that if they come to PC immediately and you can buy a PC for like the same price as you do a PlayStation, why not just get a PC at that point? There's no reason to buy a PS5. It's just like the Xbox. There's no reason to buy an Xbox because you can get everything on PC. And you can
Yeah.
play it 9 times out of 10, you can play it for free on a PC. So it's like, of course, PlayStation's going to launch stuff solely on PlayStation first because it's going to be like, oh, okay, well, I can only play it here for the first year. Then after that, I can play it for free with friends on PC via Steam or whatever if it's a multiplayer game. Or, oh, well, you know what? I'm already on PC because I like it. It's a free platform. Now I just have to wait. Now you just play the waiting game. But it is that incentive at least to get a PS5 because you get it early.
That is the thing that it's so fascinating whenever we do talk about PlayStation specifically. It is not that I believe they're going to go day and date games like Xbox does, because you've seen what happened with Xbox and how that diluted their property, their IP, and it's kind of like it's not held in that same, not care, but like love and appreciation for like, wow, this is still like a sought after commodity. And that point being, it's like PlayStation has been so staunch on not releasing their games anywhere for so long. They have a treasure trove of older IP and older games and stuff that I just feel like if they said, like, here's 1 month, like for the month of October, you're going to get Ghost of Yote, brand new first party IP coming to a PlayStation 5 platform. But then November comes around. What are we going to do there? Instead of making some crappy live service game, how about we release a like a Killzone or something like that? Not to say that that's going to make a lot of money, but to say like, hey, here's a game that is new to some people out there, and there are still PlayStation gamers right now who are young enough to have not played any of the old games or like the older God of War games prior to 2018's God of War, where it's like, if you release that collection on Steam or something like that for the month of November, or like, hey, the show's coming up at some point in time, and then that's when you decide to drop a collection that is multi-platform, you're making money. Like you are making that money that you so desperately want, and then you remove the risk of diluting IP. Like, let's just say The Last of Us Factions came out and it absolutely just shit the bed. Like, it was just bad, and it was like a Concord, and it was just not good. You run the risk of diluting The Last of Us IP, because then everyone's gonna see, like, man, we got The Last of Us Part 2, and then, like, this is the next The Last of Us game that you're pushing out. It's like, you're kind of making it look bad, because then you're taking it down a notch from, like, the great narrative story it's always been. I don't know. It is that tightrope they're walking of, how do we go about this? What's the cadence? And personally, I feel if they just go on a legendary run of dropping their older games, they can use those sales numbers to say, Naughty Dog, instead of doing all this bull crap on the side that you're doing, why don't you try your hand at a new Sly Cooper, or they didn't make Sly Cooper, but like a new Jack and Daxter or whatever. Like, I just don't see the harm there. I unless I'm missing something, please tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't think you're missing anything personally from my perspective. Like, I would say that I like the idea of them keeping like the like exclusives and everything to like timed exclusivity. Maybe lessen it from like a year or two to it being like 6 months or something like that of exclusivity.
Yeah.
But like, so I think that that's what they should honestly stick to is more like a 6 month kind of plan for that. But I do agree with you that I think they need to start going on a spree of releasing their older games to test the market, test everything out for them and everything. Just like I don't see the issue with them releasing Sly Cooper, like a whole Sly Cooper collection on Steam. Hey, there you go. This is what I mean. These games are old. Like, okay, here, 10, $15 for all of them or something for the collection, or $20, or Jack and Daxter collection or something like that. Or, do other older games that they had. There's no reason as to why they shouldn't be able to do that. And that stuff would generate them money, you know? And I mean, while we're at it, just like go ahead and release Bloodborne on PC too. I mean, come on.
It is just astounding to me. Yeah, I'm praying for you for that. But it's just astounding to me that these games, it's not like it's God of War, where you see that there is a clear plan for building that IP up more in the future. All these games have been untouched for, like, God knows how long. And it's like, why not? Like, you put Bloodborne out, like, on PC next month. I would believe that there is a sect of people that would say, like, hey, you don't need to go full remake remaster for this. If you just give us a port, like, we'll be fed, we'll be happy. And that is so rare for a company to have that power. Granted, I would love a remake or a remaster of, like, Jax 1 to 3 or, like, Sly Cooper. That'd be friggin' amazing. But PlayStation's in that weird spot where it's like, these games have been untouched for so long, fans just want the games back in their life. And they could just get away with saying, like, hey, here's a port in November, here's a port in December, January, February. Like, that is so rare. If Xbox did that, that would be, like, you see what they're doing with Halo. They remade that game in Unreal Engine 5 out of necessity to get that life back in the franchise. There are dormant franchises and IPs for PlayStation that if they just said, hey, here's the game, just let's see what the sales numbers are, that could just be a reason to make a new one.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely would be. I mean, that could be the answer to getting old titles like Sly Cooper back. Is just release it on PC, see what life it has. Release it like a whole collection for $20, and then if it sells extremely well, hey, there you go. There's your reasoning to do a new one. Or like, what other franchise haven't they touched besides that and Jack and Daxter?
I go Killzone, Ape Escape. Like, I know they put
Killzone,
in.
yeah, for sure.
I know they put Ape Escape in. I think it was Metal Gear. Yeah, Metal Gear Delta Snake Eater. There was like a little mini game, and it's like, out of everybody who knows Ape Escape, like only the sickos know about Ape Escape. And
Hey, Ape Escape was amazing on the PS2. Thank you. That was like one of my favorite games. Ape
I
Escape
agree.
3 especially.
I agree, but it's like, don't you think if there was an Ape Escape game readily available and people were playing Metal Gear Delta Snake Eater, going like, oh, that little game mode was fun. Like, what are these apes about? Like, what's the story behind this? Oh, I'm gonna go on Steam. Ape Escape 2 or 3 is on the thing. I can play it. I'm gonna buy it for $5. Hello, PlayStation. I'm trying to make you money. I don't fight this hard for Xbox. I've been fighting for you.
With how much you glaze Xbox too.
Yeah, that's saying something. That is absolutely saying something. But do we have any final thoughts here for lovely PlayStation today?
I mean, really, I just think the PlayStation is doing okay with the PC stuff. They just need to have the balls to like actually release their older games and test them out and give access to them to the player base on PC.
I couldn't agree more. And it's like, how does that hurt them? How? Like, it hurts the IP more by just sitting on a shelf and collecting dust. And everyone's like, oh, what the hell is that? That used to be a big tentpole franchise for you. But anyway, I digress. That's a whole... I can yap for hours on this. But I'm going to pass it off to you guys, the audience. What do you think? Is there any point to releasing those old games on PC? Let us know in the comments down below. But as for this episode of Community Kitchen, I've been Kalo, joined by Aiden, and we'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed today's video and want more content just like this, consider subscribing to Game Sandwich for all your news, rumors, and reviews. And we'll see you guys next time.